Our agenda today is we're going to be talking about our talking about Strive and beginning of the year, things that help you set yourself up for success at the beginning of the year. I love that we are called experts here. That's fun. Um, and we're also going to be telling y'all about the teacher learning site, which I think is just a maverick of a tool for y'all to be engaged with for your districts, especially for our smaller districts. Our teaching learning sites are just so powerful to make sure everybody has what they need to get on board and get refreshed with Eduphoria. And then finally, Brittany is going to give y'all some tips and tricks to support y'all as you're moving forward into the beginning of the year. So just one quick thing, this is being recorded, and after about 24 hours after the webinar is over, you'll receive the webinar recording as well as the slides. Please, participation is definitely encouraged. We do not like talking into black space, so please use the chat or the Q&A feature. If you think of a question, if a question bubbles up, we're happy to help you. And you know what, if you think about it later on, you're like, dadgummit, I should have thought of answering that later, then email us at training@eduphoria.net. We're excited to hear from you. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Paige.
All right. So we're going to get started with some Strive for beginning of year success solutions. But before we jump into Strive, there are a couple things that are annual updates that are Strive Plus ideas. So we kind of started with those two. The first is going to be creating a new calendar. And you have instructional and reporting calendars in your system that have to be created before the start of school. These impact all of your applications. They'll impact the instructional calendar will impact when things are visible in Strive and also in the Forethought lesson planner. And then the reporting calendars impact when teachers see data in Aware. So I'm going to jump over into my demo site and go into the management app just to show you where to access these calendars. If you are not the manager in your district, if you don't have management access, then you might want to share this slide with that person. When you get it tomorrow, you'll get an email with the link to this slide, and it has a link to the article that walks them through this process. So you would go over to school calendars. You would want to make sure that you have a 24-25 calendar set. If you don't yet, there's a button down at the bottom that says create a new calendar. And then it will automatically give you one with the correct dates because it looks at last year's and it gives you one for this year's. And then you'll have to go in and set your start and end dates. So I would want to open up the calendar itself. I would want to go to my start date and make sure that it's set for the first instructional day that I have with students. And then I want to set my end date the same way. If you are using Forethought Lesson Planner in your district, you would want to make sure that you go in after you've got your start and end dates set and also put in any holidays. So for example, if I go to September, I'm going to think that I'm guessing September 2nd is going to be the Labor Day holiday this year. And I would want to select that date and then come over here to call it a holiday. It's a holiday for everyone. And then I would want to update that so that it did not take it. For some reason, oh, I think I have a message open that is keeping me from doing this. I would need to select that date and it's not letting me select it. Don't know why. But then I would tell it holiday and click update. And then it's going to skip that as an instructional day. That way my count would go down from 205 to 204, and that would make it accurate for the lesson planner. If you're not using the lesson planner, the holidays don't really matter for Strive or for Aware, but if you are using Forethought, you would want to make sure you put your holidays. Student holidays would be when teachers work. Holidays are for everybody. You don't have to worry about weekends. It already does those. And the instructional days will be set when you do your start and end date. When I click on the plus sign beside that calendar, it's going to show me my reporting calendars. This district has two. You may only have one. You would set, are we doing 2 terms would be like 2 semesters with 9-week cycles in my semesters. I want to set my start dates. I want to make sure that there are no gaps. That's really all that matters. Your start dates and that there are no gaps. So if my first one ends on the 24th, I want my second 9 weeks to begin on the 25th. If that's not the right date for the start, then I could extend my end date. But I don't want this to end on, like, if Friday was the 22nd, I don't want it to end on the 22nd, because then if a teacher wanted to do something on the weekend, they could not access any student data. So if there are any gaps between your end date and your next start date, teachers will lose access to kiddos for that period of time. Your first start date might need to be before kids come back so that teachers can see their rosters during professional development week. So this one might need to be a little bit early. This end date might need to be a couple of days after the kids leave so teachers can finish up any work that they're doing. And then the main thing other than that is there's no gap between an end and a beginning. If you have questions about that, we have a link here to the article about school calendars, and you can share that with anybody else in your district who needs to be working on that with you. The other annual thing that has to be updated are the learning standards. We put all the learning standards in our system, but we cannot add them to your system without making some changes or deleting some things that you might have added to your system. So it's up to the districts to go in and update them. I do want to click on this article that we have out there about updating new learning standards, because every year we put in the list of everything that's new, and this year is a biggie. All science, grades K through 5, 6 through 8, and all of these high school courses have new standards taking effect this August. The same is true for social studies. All kindergarten through 5th, 6th, and 8th, and then these secondary or high school courses also got new standards taking effect in August, which is like in a few days. Well, really, start of school. All technology, K through 8, has new standards this year. And then there's a big list of CTE standards, the CATE courses at the high school, that are new. On the CATE courses, we included course numbers because they did a thing this year where, like, and I can't give you an exact example, but maybe entrepreneurship may have existed in the past, but it had a different course number, and now it has a new course number and new standards. So you need to go in and look at not just the course names, but the course numbers, and make sure you have the right course number and the right standards for those courses, because I don't know why they have some. I think pharmacy was one that existed in the past, but it had a different number before. They've moved some things around. So we included the course numbers on these just to clear that up. But you can see what all of the standards are that need to be updated. And then we have an article that walks you through the process of what you'll have to do to make that change. And then also on the slides that you get, there is a video demonstration that you can watch a video of how to do that. And you'll get, again, this slideshow with these links you'll get tomorrow. So lots of standards that need to be updated. You may not be offering every single one of those courses in your district, but the science, social studies, and technology applications for sure, you'll have to get updated. And then the CTE courses, you'll have to figure out how many of those you need to worry about before start of school. All of that should be done before teachers come back, because they will need those standards in their system, not just for lesson planning, but also for their student growth goals. They'll have to select the TEKs that are related to their student growth goals. So they'll need those, and then they'll also need to be in there for AWARE, for testing standards. So that's something that needs to be done before people come back for start of school. Okay, those are the ones that apply to multiple applications. So they're kind of general. These are user management issues, also apply to multiple applications. The first one is directory services. Not all of you are using directory services to manage your accounts, but if you have Active Directory in your district and you use that to create your logins when you sit down at the computer in the morning, that can be synced to Eduphoria so that all of your accounts can be automatically created. And it's going to take some time off of somebody's plate going in and building all of those accounts. This is included in your contract with Eduphoria. There is no additional charge for using directory services. You may not be the person who does that in your district, who's not your Active Directory. You may not be the Active Directory manager, but you can share this link with them when you get the slides tomorrow. There's an article that tells them all about all the options. Active Directory is probably the most common and simplest to set up, but we also have some remote authentication. We have class link, we have single sign-on options as well. So if your district is using some of those things, you might be able to automate your user management and make life a little bit easier for you. With Active Directory, for example, you can set it to enable the account. So as soon as they get an Active Directory account, they will get an Eduphoria account in the overnight sync. You can also choose to set up to delete accounts when people leave your district and they're taken out of AD-Sync. They'll be removed from Eduphoria. It's not a permanent delete. We call it a soft deletion, and it will put them in this bucket over here that says undelete users. If they come back to your district, they can be restored and all their data will be there. You can also set it up to read school assignments from Active Directory and ID numbers if you choose to do that. Those are all options. You have to enable the creation, and then you can add on these additional things. So that's one way that you can make your user management faster and easier. You can also create users manually. And this may be what some of you have been doing. You can go in and click create a new user for each new person that comes into your district. You put in their first name, last name, email address. Email address has to be a unique ID number. That's how our system looks at them. And then you'll select their school and give them a password. And you can do that one at a time as people come in. Kind of depends on the size of your district and how many new employees that you get at a time. Or you can, well, I'm going to jump down one and then come back. You can also import users with a spreadsheet. So if your HR team sends a spreadsheet to you of here are all the new people that have joined our district, you can then turn around and upload that spreadsheet as long as they give you the right information. So this is the information that you want to have from your employee information system. You have to include all of these fields in your spreadsheet, but you don't have to include data in all of the fields. You've got to have the 4 that have asterisks, first name, last name, email, and school. I would recommend that you do employee ID number. If you're going to do the import, might as well get them in while you can. And then if you are a TIA district, you probably want to have all 3 of those ID numbers because TIA wants all of those. And then we're going to talk about custom roles, and that will be a field that you can use as well if you want to. So the import users can be for custom roles, for additional data, or just a way that you put your users in. Again, there's an article in there about how to do the import. If it's not you that does that, you can share that information with the right person from your district. I don't know how many hats each of you are wearing. Every district is different. So this may be one of yours and it may not be. We also have a feature called custom roles, where you can go in and create roles for your district. We have teacher, principal / vice principal, which is combined into all one role. A lot of districts want it to be principal and assistant principal separately. And then we have paraprofessional, superintendent, and other. You may have some different roles that you want to create. So in custom roles, we've created some that are just your default roles if you decide to turn this on. You have to reach out to our team to get it enabled for you. There's an article about that, but you would put in a request to support@eduphoria.net and they could get it turned on. Once it's turned on, you can either use the custom roles that we've created for you as defaults, or you can build your own. And then you assign the specific rights that you want each one of those roles to have. When you have it enabled, there will be a field in here for custom role. And so you would upload those users with their custom role assigned to them. It will not create a new account for them. If their email is already in the system and you upload their email again, it will just add to it any information that's new. So if you added a new campus and you added a custom role, those would be the only changes that it would make. But that's how you're going to get that information in there to assign those custom roles for them. So if there's something that you've been wanting to say, I wish that principals and assistant principals are separate. Well, they can be, but you need to enable custom roles, and that's something you have to request to have done. And then this article will give you some more information about it. We also recommend a reset profile check at the beginning of each year. Allison, is this one yours or mine?
That one is yours.
Okay. I've lost my place. I don't know when I'm supposed to stop. So you have to tell me to shut up when it's not my turn.
I'm
The
next.
Okay, thank you. So the reset profile check is something that we recommend at the beginning of each year, especially if your users are doing their own school assignments in and teaching assignments both in their profile. Because if they've moved or if they've changed something, they're not teaching the same thing, we want them to go in and make that change in their profile. A lot of them forget, and if you use this button, it forces them to go to their profile. Now, you can't force them to actually make the changes, but hopefully they will if you force them to go to that profile and walk through the little wizard where they can see their school assignment, see if it's right or wrong, see their teaching assignment, see if it's up to date or not, and then set their security question if they haven't done that. So it takes them through that whole wizard. What you will do is go into the management section. You'll go to manage users and come down to the manage user profiles. And you will see this screen right here. You're going to click this button that says request profile check. That's all you have to do. And then the very next time that people sign in, it will take them to their profile wizard and force them to go through all of those screens and hopefully update them as they're going through them. When I was with the district, I used to do this on a Friday before I walked out the door. And earlier that week, I would send out an email saying, on Monday, when you come back in, the first time you go to Eduphoria, you're going to have to reset your profile. Here are the things I want you to check. Make sure you're going to be at the correct campus and only that campus. Make sure that your teaching assignments are what you're going to be currently teaching for the upcoming year, not everything you're certified for, but just what you're going to be teaching. So you can send out that little email reminder, and then when you click the button, the next time they log in, they will have to do that reset their profile. And now I'm going to turn it over to Allison.
All right, let's talk about roles and rights audit. So many times whenever we're meeting with our Eduphoria clients, we go and print the roles report just so we can see everyone that has access, especially when we're talking about big topics like who can see everyone's appraisals and who can have access to looking at some sensitive information. Like it's always good to run this role report at least once a year, just to make sure everyone has what they need. And also people that don't need something don't have that. So we are demoing that right now. So when you're in management, you go down, you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that first little column, and then you'll scroll down to print role report. And when you click on that, you're going to select whatever so, app you would like to be in. Today we're talking about Strive, so let's look at our Strive roles. And that's going to send you a nice spreadsheet of who can do what. And so that's going to tell you how many appraisal administrators you have, how many professional learning administrators you have, who has what they need. And I'll tell you, and I say this in a lot of trainings, but when we talk about the words appraisal administrator and we talk about professional learning administrator, I view that person as like the mayor. Like those people have the keys to the city. So those folks, that list needs to be on the smaller side because they can see everything. So you want to make sure your administrators are folks that need to see all the things, but just make sure that list is always pruned because you want to make sure like people can't see things they don't necessarily need to see, right? So if you have questions and you're like, oh gosh, who needs what? We've included that link in the slides. You'll receive the slides tomorrow. Again, 24 hours after this recording, you'll receive the slides and the recording of the webinar. And you'll be able to click that link and go through the running reports to view user roles and rights. So you can walk step by step through that process and make sure everybody has what they need. And again, people that don't need something don't have it.
Just as a general rule, we recommend 3 to 5 people at that top level. So you can see I'm way out of whack in my demo site here. Shouldn't have that many people who have access to everything and everybody. A lot of times people think, well, I'm an appraiser and I'm an administrator, so I must be an appraisal administrator. But this is really just those top people who manage it. So 3 to 5 is our usual recommendation. And We will also add in a link here before we send it out to the spreadsheet about the roles and rights so that you will have that information as well.
Yes, that's one of my favorite spreadsheets. I use that so many times to whenever I'm, especially in new setups, it has so much information on who needs what and some examples of what that looks like. As Paige talked about earlier, just making sure that your teachers, your appraisers, everyone that's in Eduphoria, make sure that they update their profile at the beginning of the year. So when they log in from the homepage, they can either go to the my profile up at the top, or there's a my profile at the bottom. There's two ways to access it. And when they click on that, it's going to guide them through setting up their profile. It's going to walk them through the same steps they've always been through. But when you have attrition, that's so important to make sure that your teachers are on the right campus, your appraisers are on the right campus, just because if an if appraiser is missing a teacher, that means the teacher needs to go in and set up, check their profile. So that is something that the appraisee has to do in order to be accurate and be available so the appraiser can select them. So as you can see here, this is kind of what the process looks like. You go through, double check your name and email, and then your campus. And then you'll just scroll down. If you want to add a new picture, you can. Maybe you want to get some beach photos from the summer, or maybe the dog took a new picture, just whatever your district is using for photos. It's always going to default to teacher. So if you are a principal, vice principal, whoever, if you're anything other than a teacher, and you're like, wait a second, it's got me in here wrong. Nope, it just resets to teacher every time you walk through this wizard. So just tell it which role you are, and then hit next. And then from there, you select all the subjects that you teach. If you select multiple subjects, select multiple subjects. And then your grades that you're working with. So if I'm a fine arts teacher teaching choir in high school, I do 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. So you can select multiple grade levels as well. And then you want to make sure that your security question is correct and you know the answer to it, right? So it's so important for your security questions to be accurate, just because they are used for not only your security question to log in, but also to sign documents, which is super, super important, because whenever you're signing maybe an observation or a summative, however you have e-signature set up, you just want to make sure that you know the answer to that question so that you're able to complete the document. And the last page is going to ask for your employee ID. It'll
It may or
populate
may
if it's
not.
already,
This is
okay,
actually a district setting, so mine is set to ask them. If y'all are using Active Directory Sync and it's already bringing the IDs in, then it will not ask you this question. So you may not see that. If you don't worry about it.
perfect. And then you hit save changes and you're all set on updating your profile. And again, you want to make sure that everyone does that at the beginning of the year. Maybe promise like a sweet treat or a jeans day. All right. We're going to talk about archiving. So if you haven't archived yet, now is the time. So we do have some great resources on this slide to show y'all, a video and some online help guide articles to make sure that you are following the process completely for archiving. So make sure all of your processes are complete. And when you look at that article, it's going to tell you reports you could run to make sure documents are signed and appraisals are done. Now that we're gearing up for our, for 24-25 school year, hopefully everything's capped on 23-24. So just make sure that you got a good stopping space on that one. And then you want to run your archive before any changes are made for the upcoming year. So don't go in and do your calendar just yet or anything like that. Make sure that we put a cap, and it's almost just like we're cleaning up what we cooked so we can make a new recipe, right? So make sure you clean your workspace, archive the previous year before you start setting anything up for the next year. And make sure that you set the dates correctly. I cannot stress that enough. So in the article, it's going to tell you exactly how to run the dates, where you need to go for that. But just make sure also you will need a Post-it note or something to write down your original dates, because you do have to bump them up to make sure that you're capturing all the data that was created at whenever your teacher started to put data into the system. So that may not necessarily be the first day of school. It's going to be when they start creating their goals. So when they first start creating those goals all the way to the end of the year after the last document is signed and completed by your appraisers. So and that is a lot of info, but just know that the video and the online help guide are going to guide you all through that. It's going to be like a virtual hand holding for you. And of course, if you have questions, please reach out to us. We're more than welcome to, more than happy to help you guys with that. And we've also, you're like, Allison, this is a lot of stuff to know what to do. We got you. We got a Strive preparation checklist that is going to walk you through meetings you should have, people you should talk to as you are putting a cap on the end of the year and opening it up to the next year. So we recommend that you walk through this checklist every year. Make sure, and we do in the checklist, it prompts you on people you should be talking to, the stakeholders you should be having dialogue with. um Review your processes, your templates, make sure it's doing everything you want it, make sure everything's tagged correctly. One quick tip is, as you're setting up for the new year, don't forget to go into your template and your appraisee types and adjust those dates for when goals are due, when observations are due, when summatives are due, because all of that's going to drive how you receive your data. Due dates are to make those due dates are so important because it not only informs the activity tracker on the overview page for your administrators, it also guides your teachers on when things are due. And we have a copy of that Strive checklist there at the bottom that you'll receive when you get the slides.
Awesome. Okay, we want to talk a little bit about two new frameworks that you're going to see in your system and why. We pushed out two locked frameworks. And so the question is, why use locked frameworks? Why was that important? Locked frameworks can prevent changes that can make your data inaccurate. So if you were using a previously created t-test framework that is not locked, someone could go in and make a change to something that could impact your data. And we don't want that to happen. So this is going to be a preventative measure for that. All of the frameworks focus and align the appraisers on the state level goals and priorities. We want to make sure they're the right ones and they haven't been edited by anybody. So we want to make sure that that's a locked framework. And then finally, the Eduphoria community templates that we build and post out there for you to use, going forward, we're only going to create and support those templates that are tied to lock frameworks. So if you use our community and you want to continue to use our community, that's something you need to be thinking about. I'm going to go over into our applications. Let me get where I can see I zoomed in too much. What's happening here? That's way over there. So I'm going to go to switch applications and I'm going to go into Strive. When I go to my frameworks here in Strive, I'm going to go to the appraisal settings and go to frameworks. You will notice that there are now some additional ones up at the top. You may have been using t-test and you'll notice it doesn't have the little lock. Now we have two new ones called t-test V2 and t-test Alt D1. T-test V2 is just like t-test. It's just locked. So that's why we're calling it V2. This is a good time if you're going in to review your process to consider changing and making your appraisee type. So if I go into t-test, you don't have to rename it, but I would want to tie it to the V2 framework. And then I would want to import all of the new templates that are tied to that framework. I want to select the framework first, and then when I import my templates, they will automatically be tagged to that framework. You won't have to go back in and tag them. You'll just have to go in and say, for my observation, now I want to use the one that's called t-test V2, which I've got to scroll over so I can see it. I want to make sure that I'm selecting just the t-test V2 option and not any other options. And so now all my users will be able to see, I'm going to uncheck the ones I had checked before, and all they'll be able to see when they go in now is the new one. Ooh, I got some stuff in there that should not be checked. So I want to make sure only the new V2 observation is what people will be able to use going forward. We do have an article that is tied to this slide that will walk you through what the frameworks are all about. And then once you select the one that you want to use, it has the directions showing you how to go in and set that up and find all the templates that you need. And these are all the templates that we've created. These are all the V2 templates. So it tells you how to do those and put them in the process. So we've got directions out there if you're ready to make that change at this point in time. The other framework is alternative domain 1. And alternative domain 1 was created for districts that are using high quality instructional materials, which come with lesson plans. And so in the regular D1, it's all about planning. Domain 1 is about planning, and the language says that teachers create lesson plans. And in some cases, they're not creating anymore. So the language in domain 1, the alternative domain 1, is about internalizing the lesson plans. If you are using high quality instructional materials and your teachers are not writing any of their lesson plans, they're using lesson plans that already exist, and you want to focus on the internalization, then we have provided you with another framework that's based on the language of the alternative domain 1. Just a little information, there are 2 dimensions that have different language than the original framework. So the changes are minor. It's only dimensions 1.1 and 1.3 that are different. The rest of them are the same. So that's something for your district to think about. There's not a requirement that you have to use the alternative domain. It's an option that the state made available. So we made it available to you in Strive. And again, when you go into the frameworks, you'll see that there is the Alt1 domain. It says lesson internalization instead of planning, but the only differences are in domain dimensions 1.1 and 1.3. You can take a look at that and make the decision as a district. If you do decide you want to use the alt domain 1, we also have a section down at the bottom that's all about alt domain 1, and it will walk you through the process of finding all those templates. We have those out there for you as well. So hopefully that will help you get set up with everything that you need. If you have some teachers who are using high quality materials and some who are not, you might want to consider whether it's worth splitting your data across 2 frameworks. In order to do that, you would have to have 2 different appraisee types. There are some reports in Strive that pull based on appraisee type. So you would have to pull those reports twice if you were using 2 different types, one V2 and one Alt D1. So those are things to consider as you make that decision going forward. But now before school starts, when you're reviewing your templates, is a good time to take a look at that and make your decisions about which frameworks you want to use and which templates you want to pull in from our community. Finally, I want to talk about our online help guide. I've popped in there a couple of times. Anytime you are in our system, you can go up to the question mark at the top of the page, depending on where you are. Sometimes you see a question mark, sometimes you see the word help, sometimes you see a question mark float over, see the word help, but you'll see one of those things either from the main page. I can come here and go to the word help, or from within an application, I can go to the question mark up at the top, and that will take you to our online help guide. The online help guide has links for all of our applications. If I go into Strive, that's where we'll see the getting started sections that we were just looking at. There's also a beginning and end of year item out here. So if I go to start and end of year, there are articles about things that we want you to do before you start your year. We've talked about updating your profile. And then there are some things in here for teachers, for principals, for administrators. And then we also had the end of the year recommendations that I think y'all talked about at your spring meeting. So you can always go in and find the things that we reference here, and we have links to a lot of these articles in the slideshow. If you see a link, it's going to be live when you get the PDFs, and it'll take you right to the article in our help guide. And then we want to talk about our teacher learning course, because this is a great way for you to help your teachers get trained It is free. All teachers have access to it. You can access it here by clicking on the link, but you can also go into the online help guide. Let me go back to, where was I? When I go back to the main page and I go to training and webinars, right here under training options, it says free resource for teachers. I can click there and read a little bit about it. And then I can say, I want to start learning today. And that will take you to our digital learning site for teachers. There's a section for Aware that will talk about all the things that teachers are going to be doing in Aware. You'll see there are different units, and each unit has different modules or videos that they can watch. The same is true for Strive. So when it's time for your teachers to start writing their goals, you can send them here. We've got a video on updating your profile, which we've talked about a couple times today. It's very important. Also, how our goals work, and then how they can set up their professional goals, set up their student growth goals, and then how they will mark them complete at the end of the year. It also talks about how they can see their evaluations and do the steps and tasks that they're responsible for, and how they can view the things their principals do and sign the documents that require signatures. They can also upload additional evidence, and there's a video showing them that. If y'all are using student portfolios in your district, we have a unit about that shows them how to set them up and manage them. And then we also have a unit about how they can access their professional learning, register for professional learning, customize some things, take an e-course, take a survey, all the things that they need to do with their professional learning courses. So all of that is free, and you can share it with your teachers. You can use it as training resources, or you can just assign it to them to do on their own time, whatever works best for you, but you all have access to that. Any questions? I haven't been monitoring the chat. Allison, are there any questions out there we need to address?
Nope. I think Brittany and I have both been grabbing them. So there's
Awesome.
we do have one.
Okay.
Uh no. So do they need to be logged in to view the teacher help link? No, they do not. It and Paige, can you go back to the teacher learning
Yeah.
site? So when you click on that link there, it's just going to take you to that page, and it'll walk you through. Over on the left-hand side, you can see the navigation. We have teacher learning sites for both Aware and Strive. And so there's no login needed. They can go through and watch the videos and do the knowledge checks and work through that. No login needed. All right, I don't see any other questions, but keep them coming.
All right. And again, as Allison said, if something comes up after the session and you go, "Ooh, I forgot," you can always email us at training@eduphoria.net. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Brittany to talk about account management.
Perfect. Thank you, Paige and Allison. And going back to the teacher learning site, I always tell districts that this is a really, really good resource if you are onboarding a new group of teachers in your district. It's a really, really good starting point for Aware and Strive. But I did want to touch on Aware Premium for just a moment. Many of our districts have upgraded their subscriptions to Aware Premium. If you have not, though, and you are interested in doing that, we do offer free Aware Premium trial licenses for districts, and this would typically be about 4 to 6 weeks, and it would give you access to the premium features in Aware to allow your teachers to kind of explore everything. And we've also done many webinars lately on the Aware Premium features, and those can all be accessed on our YouTube channel. If you ever are looking for something specific, though, and you're not sure where to find it, you can always reach out to an account manager and they can send that over to you. And lastly, in terms of Aware Premium, we have self-guided walkthrough demonstrations that are, again, another great resource if your teachers are really trying to learn what the Aware Premium features are about. So those are, I believe those are on the next slide over. There you'll see all the different features that are in Premium, as well as at the bottom, you'll see the Aware new navigation, and that will walk you through the new interface in Aware. And also on the previous slide, sorry, Paige, there is a link. If you have any questions about Aware Premium, or even if you're not sure that your district is a premium district, go ahead and click on that link. When you do get the recording of the presentation, you can fill that out and that'll go directly to your account manager and we can follow up with you. And in terms of additional support that your account manager can provide, we have the ability to look at your district's usage data for all applications that you have access to. So we're more than happy to look into that for you, as well as we can do needs assessment meetings if your district is interested in training. Typically, we set up an initial needs assessment call, and then we can also schedule a meeting with our training team to really, you know, kind of determine what your district is needing in terms of support and training. And from there, we would provide you with a training proposal and a quote and get your training scheduled. And again, you'll see that link at the bottom of this slide as well. I believe if you do click on the link, I believe you can, you know, let us know if you're interested in training opportunities as well. But I think that is it. Were there any questions in terms of account management support that I may have missed?
I'm not seeing any right now. We
Okay.
had a request for the link for the teacher learning site, and I posted that in the chat and the answer. But also those links, all the links we talked about, as well as the help guide articles, will all be included today whenever we send y'all the slides. So you'll have the recording and the slides with you in about 24 hours or so.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Paige and Allison. The information that you shared was very valuable. And thank you to all of our districts who took time out in your afternoon to join us. We know that many of your teachers are coming back next week, and this is a really, really busy time. So we appreciate you, and let us know how we can support you. We are here to help in any way. So I think we'll go ahead and close everything, but thank you again, everyone, and have a good afternoon.
Y'all.